Look out, here's trouble. G'day legends, time for a bit of Jim Does SuperCoach. The NFL SuperCoach Week 8 wrap, the Week 9 look ahead, all the good stuff. And as we all expected, Jonathan Taylor goes bang, scores 3 touchdowns, leads all running backs, all scorers. Well, actually, we did all expect that. I hope you had him captain as well. Well done, everybody. I think that was pretty smart. Obviously, the story of the week was, as we alluded to last week, and in our team reveal, BYE-MAGEDDON absolutely laid waste to SuperCoach scores across the board, including me. 438 is where I landed. That's top 20%. Just not good enough, though, but I'll get to that in a second. I slipped down to 496th overall, so it's still top 2%. So hopefully a big bounce back ahead. You have to nail some of this schedule. We'll get to that later too. So the Week 8 average score was actually 380 in NFL SuperCoach. So that's a really tough week for everybody. The top 5% average was only 521 as well. So look, everybody sort of got struck down by a few of these big name players who didn't really produce in Week 8. I'm looking at you, Bijan Robinson, CMC, what are you doing? And a bunch of laid outs, including obviously our man Drake London. That really hurt me. And I'll guess with all the buys out there as well, suddenly if you're getting a laid out, we weren't able to, shuffle folks on for a bit of coverage. And we've got 0 scores on our bench with 6 teams on buys. So I think the big one for me was obviously Dak Prescott. Had a really, really rough one. Ends up with like 17 points. You add that to Bijan's 8, CMC's 16. And then Drake London being a last minute out for the Atlanta Falcons. So that's a DNP with no bench coverage. And Nico Collins didn't get up from his concussion, so he copped the did not play as well. And even me, I had Darren Waller. He goes on IR, so I replaced him with Pat Fryermuth, thinking Aaron Rodgers might just get him a touchdown on National Tight Ends Day. It felt like he was the only tight end in the NFL not to score a touchdown. What's going on, Aaron Rodgers? You're breaking my heart. So I guess that's where I landed. My trades that I ended up making last week, it was Waller to Fryermuth. I did actually go to Jamar Chase, which was pretty good. Happy to get him in again. And Ashton Genty went down to Kamani Vidal, which was a great move because, again, as I said the other day, he'll probably fall into the end zone. Turns out he was just the bell cow running back for the Chargers, so that was pretty nice. But anyway, look, I think with everybody, with the top 5% of coaches getting hit by Bijan's 8 points, McCaffrey 16, even Justin Jefferson with 21, Egbuka only managed 10. He's still in over 50% of teams. So it was a really rough week. Hope you survived it well. Let's look at who actually did well, though, this week. Position by position. We'll fly through these. The QBs, we had Jordan Love crush it with 56, Drake May 54, Juzzy Herbs at 52, Jalen Hurts 50, Patrick Mahomes snuck in there with 49, Bo Nix 49, Tua wearing the visor with 48, Joe Flacco felt like he played a horrible game, but they still did put up 38 points, did the Bengals. He had 47, Josh Allen had 46, still dropped 950K though with a massive break even. And finishing up with Danny Dimes on 45. Not a bad one. I love me some Drake May at 54, though. That's pretty good. The running backs, obviously, Jonathan Taylor leads all scorers. He had 72. James Cook ran all over the top of Carolina with 67. Saquon broke one off massively, basically, to start the game. Also pinged the groin. Now on a bye, he scored 62. Breece Hall pops off, finally. Now on a bye, he also had 62. 47 for Chase Brown. He was randomly, massively involved in that Bengals game. RJ Harvey out there scoring touchdowns for fun. Finally got his first actual touchdown on the ground. He had 47 as well. Derrick Henry got a great matchup. We'll talk about that later this week. 38. Kamani Vidal, as I mentioned, 38. Devon Achane had 34 as well as he ran over the top of the Falcons. And Javonte Williams with 34. The wide receivers, a bit of a rough one for them this week. Troy Franklin leads at 47. 41 for Rashee Rice. He looks awesome. Pittman Jr. had 39 for the Colts. 36 for Jalen Waddle. He's the only standing Miami receiver at this point. Ladd McConkey and Khalil Shakir both had 35. Then it's a big drop-off to 30 for Chase and Booty. And Xavier Hutchinson and Roman Wilson. That's your top 10. Roman Dunze just misses out in the 11th spot with 29. The tight ends, that was obviously a massive week for them. Tucker Kraft went off his head on Sunday Night Football. He ends up with 59 big points against the QB who used to be the Packers QB. 59 for Tucker Kraft, 37 for Travis Kelce, 32 for Goddard and Gadsden. He's been amazing. 30 for Harold Fannin Jr. Kittle came back. He had 24. People are loving that. He is still on 9% of teams. David Njoku, he's now on a bye. He's on 23. Mason Taylor, 23 as well. Bit of a rough one because Fannin Jr. and Goddard obviously on buys too. Kyle Pitts had 20 and Gunnar Helm rounds out the top 10. Tyler Warren misses out. He's still on a massive amount of teams, 58%. He was 13th with 14 points. The kickers, 40 for Boswell, 34 for McLaughlin. He's now on a buy. Rough on there. Dick of the kicker had 30. Kaimi Fairbairn looking very good. He had 28. And Andy Borregales had 26. That's the top 5. The kickers, it's still just really a bit of a crapshoot at this point. Tyler Loop had 26. You've got Nick Folk and Prater on 24. Cairo Santos, 22. And Riley Patterson on 20. It's a rough one, that kicker spot. For the defense special teams, Tampa Bay absolutely shredded the Saints, scoring 52 points. They're now on a bye, owned by 0.8% of coaches. Tough one. The Bills had 34 up against Carolina, 22 each for the Pats and the Chargers, 20 for the Chiefs with a very nice interception at the very end of that game, 18 for the Browns, 14s for the Colts and Dolphins, 12 for the Broncos, which is pretty crazy. Thought they did a great job against Dallas, and the Eagles had 12 as well. So, biggest surprises, I guess, Breece Hall, he's back. James Cook going off his head. That was really nice to see. Hopefully you if you had him, you held him. You had Chase Brown with 47 points in that loss. Pretty interesting. Jamar Chase threatened to go big, but never got that touchdown to just push his score over the top. But my biggest surprise is probably Gadsden going absolutely off his head again, and Kamani Vidal really repaying the faith. The Chargers put one on the Vikings back on Friday morning. Gadsden was huge, another 32. He's going to go huge this week in price. And obviously Vidal has been the best cash cow running back, I reckon, in the last couple of weeks. So very nice there. The biggest flops, the list is long during BYE-MAGEDDON. Bijan, 8 points, is crazy against a Miami team that has been just absolutely slaughter-marated by running backs this year. And one of the 2 best running backs in the league can't get it going. What are you doing, Falcons? You're breaking my heart. 8 points. Egbuka, 10 points. As I mentioned, he's still in 54% of teams. McCaffrey, that was a really rough one. But, that Texans team, that defense is for real. He had 16. Tyler Warren against the Titans, 14 points. He had a couple of, just slight overthrows, a couple of misses. Threatened always sort of go big. Trevion Henderson again for the Pats. That Browns team was always going to be a tough one. He had 11. Matthew Golden had 3 points. Expected a bigger game for him against that Steelers defense that stinks against the pass. 18 for Skattebo. That's the big one, I guess. Goes out with his foot going completely sideways off his leg. Dislocated ankle. Absolutely brutal stuff. He was on 16% of teams. We'll talk about him later. Judkins only managed 6 points against the Pats, but we should know this by now. The Pats' run defense has been elite this year. Debo only managed 5 points. Also gave up, a drop and a fumble. Bill Krosky merit 5 points as well. Horror show there for the Washington Commanders. So I guess heading into week 9, the biggest worry is obviously if you have Skattebo, that injury is brutal. We've got to keep an eye on Nico Collins if he comes back from that concussion from the week prior. Drake London with his hip injury. He was a game time decision. Hopefully he comes back. My biggest worries is obviously any commander with Marcus Mariota, Debo, McLaurin, the running backs. It's a horror show there. Otherwise, the biggest worries, it's really sort of making sure that you're still navigating these buys, right? With Philly on a buy this week, so no Jalen Hurts, no Saquon, no Devonta Smith, who's been very solid with AJ Brown missing this week. You've also got the Jets, Breece Hall, whatever. He was awesome this week, but it's the Jets. They're still kind of stinky. Tampa Bay missing this week probably gives them a bit of a chance, or at least for Egbuka to come back and be a bit healthy. He keeps shedding money. And the other team on the bye this week, I believe, who was that? It's Cleveland. And they're not, apart from Judkins, they're kind of a bit eh. So really, one of my biggest worries is we're running out of cash cows. We are running out of cash cows at a crazy rate because at the moment, the biggest QB cash cow might be Jacoby Brissett, aka the Brisket. He's got a break even of minus 40. Cheapy QB option. $7 million. The thing is, we just don't know when Kyler Murray is going to come back or if he's going to come back. And suddenly Jacoby Brissett's back on the bench. They've looked solid without Kyler Murray. Brissett's been awesome. He's got plenty of weapons, but the problem will be we don't know if Kyler Murray is coming back. JJ McCarthy is one of my other biggest worries, and I guess he's still a massive cash cow, minus 35. He's only played the 2 games. And I guess that probably leads into this combination, cash cow, biggest worry. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jordan Mason, and of course, JJ McCarthy. The Vikings have looked absolutely horrible, and now they just don't know who's going to be their QB. Carson Wentz is now gone for the season with a shoulder injury. It gets very thin on the ground very, very quickly. So we're going to keep an eye on that JJ McCarthy slot. Hopefully he comes back and makes us a bit of cash on the bench if you've held on to him. The other cash cows, I mean, that's kind of it. Jackson Dart still at -5 break even. He's at 16.6 mil now. So if you are feeling kind of frisky and you want to maybe downgrade from if you've maybe got Jalen Hurts on a bye this week, free up some cash, see if you can make a bit from Dart this week. And if you've got enough trades to burn, I'm okay with that because they play the Niners and the Niners defense is not at all scary. They were pretty ineffectual this week against the Texans. CJ Stroud was throwing everywhere. Jackson Dart, his scampering, his running ability just keeps him at a very, very high floor. He managed 38 this week in a game against the Eagles where they lost Skattebo, right? So don't mind Jackson Dart. Bo Nix has got a break-even of 2 at 23.3 mil, but there's a very, 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 very scant amount of actual cash cows there in the QB spot. The running backs, it's obviously Kamani Vidal and RJ Harvey at the moment at the top of that break-even list. Kamani Vidal, he looks absolutely unreal. He's got the break-even of -2. He's priced at 8.5 mil. He's probably my favorite cash cow. RJ Harvey, it feels like their usage of him with J.K. Dobbins and co. He's got a break-even of -16. He's priced at 8.1 mil. They play Houston this week. I probably prefer Kamani Vidal. If you don't have him already and you're after a cheapy running back, they play Tennessee. Yes, Amari and Hampton will probably come back at some point, but Vidal, until we know that, and until we know when he's going to come back, I'm happy riding with Vidal over RJ Harvey. Samaje Perine's at break-even -11, but he's sort of like that relief running back. He had a big score this week purely because he broke off one massive run. 32 this week for him. Ollie Gordon, same sort of vibe, right? Backup running back in Miami. He's priced at 4.1 mil. He's a break-even of -7, but again, it's because he had a receiving touchdown that got him into the end zone. Outside of that, Woody Marks is still doing okay. He managed 25 this week, break-even of 3. I like the look of him, and they play Denver this week, though, Houston, so I'm kind of wanting to steer clear of both teams' offense because those defenses are pretty scary. Unless Nico Collins comes back, because with Pat Surtain out, I'm just saying Denver might be able to be had during, through the air. For the wide receivers, Troy Franklin, break-even of -24. He's just so boom or bust, though. I can't really trust that, especially against Houston now. Chimere DK for the Tennessee Titans, he's got a break-even of -22, 6.1 mil, but he's on the Titans. Like, what are we doing? Travis Hunter's still got that break-even of -10 coming off his bye. They play the Raiders. If you kept him, good on you. That's probably a good-looking cash cow, but I sort of upgraded him to Chase, and I feel okay. I've got, in my wide receiver room, I've got 7 very, very solid options and Ted McMillan, I think, at the moment, so I'm set for wide receiver for the foreseeable. Outside of that, Roman Wilson, break-even of -10, though. Like, he's so low on the depth chart, though, for the Steelers that I'm not going to really trust him. Tutu Atwell, -9. If Puka's out for one more game, maybe. But other than that, it's a rough one. -5 break even for Michael Pittman Jr. And they've got a massive matchup against the Steelers this week. If you are looking for that mid-pricer who's going to make a bit of cash and maybe you need to jump up somewhere else, Pittman Jr. is probably my favorite pick of the week. Outside of that, tight ends, obviously Gadsden, the break-even of -31, 9.4 mil. He went up $3 million. I was spewing because obviously I went to Frymouth instead after the Waller news came out. And Gadsden, I'm just like, he's just so boom or bust. And then he goes boom again because of course he does. If he hits another touchdown next game, he'll probably go up another 2-3 mil. He's a great one for your tight end spot, just saying. RJ Harvey, we've already mentioned RJ Harvey. Tucker Kraft looks healthy, amazing, awesome again. 13 mil, break even of -14. He is absolutely unreal. Absolutely. Like, he was so good this week. 59. Absolutely smashed that Steelers defense. They play Carolina this week as well. Can't go wrong with Tucker Kraft if you can afford him. Frymouth has still got a break even of -10. So he made $890K for me this week. I'm really hoping he does something against Indy next week or else that's going to be gold time. Otherwise, that's kind of it because you've got Jalen Noel on Houston. Nico's coming back. Tyler Johnson's on a bye. Isaiah Davis is on a bye. Anyone on Miami, I'm just sort of steering clear from. Roman Wilson, as I mentioned, DK's the man there. So, who are we looking at for trades this week? Well, the buys, remember, you've got the Bucks, Philly, the Jets, and the Browns. You're probably keeping on Tampa Bay. Look, if you need to move on from Magbuka, he's already shedded 2.3 mil. I've jumped off him. So he's one of my probably must trades. Like, he could probably have another big week, but he just hasn't looked right since the hamstring strain. Now he's got the bye. If you hold on to him, you're really sort of hoping that he's right and healthy by the following week. There's so many options out there at wide receiver right now that I'd probably jump off again. I jumped off, 2 weeks ago, saved myself 2.3 mil that he's dropped. Baker only scored 8 points this week as well. Now on a bye. Peace. He's only owned by 3% of coaches anyway. And obviously Skattebo is the big one. 16 mil he's priced at. So for the 16% of coaches who had Skattebo, there's actually a lot of options for you to go from Skattebo to. James Cook's an obvious candidate, but he just played Carolina and now plays Kansas City. That's chasing points from last week. We don't do that in SuperCoach, right? We try not to. We always do. We try not to. I'd rather go the people who are now playing against Carolina this week, right? And you sort of think about this and go, wait a minute. Is there somebody good playing Carolina this week, Jim? And the answer is yes, Green Bay. I'd rather go Josh Jacobs because he's just going to fall in at home, 2 touchdowns against Carolina minimum, I'd say. So I'd be all over Josh Jacobs to replace Skattebo this week. Josh Jacobs as well. It's a little bit of a jump up in terms of the price, but not too much. So I'd sort of feel okay about getting him in. Josh Jacobs is a weapon anyway, right? So he's just really, really, really good. 23 this week, but price of 21 mil. It's not a giant jump up. If you need to sort of stay around that price point, A-Chain is just like a really good option. Kyron Williams, the Rams have a great matchup this week as well with, I think they take on the Saints, right? So with that in mind, we saw Tampa Bay just demolish them at the Saints. So Kyron Williams is a good one. How about a point of difference, though? A good old pod. DeAndre Swift. They play Cincinnati this week in Cincinnati. Chicago reeling after that Baltimore loss. Since he'll be reeling after the Jets one. I expect a shootout in this. Both teams' defenses are pretty bad. So DeAndre Swift is a pretty good pod if you ask me. And obviously, Skattebo, if you've got coverage, Breece Hall after the bye, Judkins after the bye, they're priced pretty nicely. Saquon is basically about the same price as well as Skattebo, but again, on a bye. So at the moment, there's a couple of really good options there that I've sort of laid out. And I really, really, really like going to Josh Jacobs if you can afford it. If not, A-Chan's pretty good. Kyron Williams pretty good. DeAndre Swift is a pod. Right. What's the big one that we're keeping an eye on this week, though? It's the schedule. I've sort of alluded to this one, right? This is a really, really fun week for SuperCoach because, as I said, Josh Jacobs up against Carolina. Tucker Kraft against Carolina. It's always a bit of a roulette wheel, though, with some of those receivers on Green Bay. But at home, I expect the Packers to smash the Panthers. We have the Chargers playing Tennessee. So that's Kamani Vidal. That's Gadsden. That's Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnson, if you've still got him. Arizona and Dallas against each other. Trey McBride, big week incoming, I reckon. Dallas, Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams, Jake Ferguson. They're at home. Dallas look awesome at home versus on the road. That game is unreal. That's a standalone. That's Monday Night Football on our Tuesday morning. I'm all over that. Rams versus the Saints. So Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. The Bears versus Bengals, both offenses. I love Rome Odunze this week against that Bengals defense. We just saw them get shredded by the Jets. The Bengals will be at home, so I maybe prefer Jamar Chase versus the Bears secondary, which hasn't been too bad. The Indy pass catchers versus Pittsburgh as well. So that's obviously Tyler Warren. What am I saying? Warren. Tyler Warren, Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor. Look, the Pittsburgh run defense isn't too bad. So playing the schedule is the big one for this week. I'm really making sure you're picking your matchups correctly. Because if you look at some of these, like I've got plenty of running backs and wide receivers to sort of pick from now where I can maybe sit Drake London against the Pats, Bijan versus the Pats. Like that run defense is really, really, really good. So I'd be looking at someone like the trade-in targets. I'd be Skattebo as well. The one guy I didn't mention, Derrick Henry. They play Miami. We've just seen Bijan stink it up against Miami, but they still give up 145 yards a game, and they've given up 10 touchdowns on the ground this season as well, Miami. Derrick Henry, don't mind it this week with Lamar Jackson coming back. Short week. I reckon they'll just run Derrick Henry. Kamani Vidal versus Tennessee. You got to get him in, I reckon. Break even to -2. Josh Jacobs versus Carolina. And how about, I mentioned this before, the Vikings. So Detroit play the Vikings with Detroit at home. Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Vikings give up 204 yards and 11 touchdowns in the air this year. And Jahmyr Gibbs on the ground. They've given up 130 yards rushing, but only 5 touchdowns on the ground. So Gibbs is going to be on my field, ahead of probably Javonte Williams. What it's going to come down to for me, I think, is Bijan versus Javonte Williams this week, but I'll get to that in a second. You've got JSN versus Washington. If you don't have Jackson Smith and Jigba already, I'd be all over that. Puka against the Saints. That's a great matchup. Same with Kyron Williams. Rashee Rice is a massive trade-in target. He should be. He looks unreal. I love his role on this Kansas City team. They play Buffalo this week, but I expect Mahomes to be awesome basically the rest of this season. Rashee Rice, with the full complement of receivers around like him as well, like Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, they look great. So maybe with Rashee Rice as a pretty decent pod, because I think in terms of the actual ownership numbers, he's at 7.8%, 41 this week. He is going to go through the roof with a break-even of 11, priced at 16.7 mil. I'd prefer him over, especially over Drake London this week, but I don't know. The Pats, they did also make a couple of trades today, but anyway, love Rashee Rice. Gadsden, still a minus break-even. He looks unreal. Juzzy Herbs is all over him. So a lot of those names, Derrick Henry, Vidal, there's a couple of good running backs, Josh Jacobs versus Carolina, Gibbs versus the Vikings, a couple of really good names to get in, Kyron Williams. For the receivers, Puka, JSN, you think about Amon-Ra as well against the Vikings. He'll be pretty good. Rashee Rice, though, is a pretty good POD, I'm just saying. Who I'm avoiding this week is basically, I mean, you think about Drake and Bijan this week against the Pats. That Atlanta showing this week was just such a kick in the guts, wasn't it? But otherwise, like the rest of it, like Jordan Mason against Detroit's run defense, I do not like him this week at all. I do love both the Cincinnati and Chicago offenses, though. So I'll be going hammer and tongs all over that. I also love that I've got the Detroit Lions defense this week that I can put up against Minnesota and whoever they roll out there with their QB. So be interesting. Who else am I avoiding? It's kind of a bit of an interesting one with the Rams-Saints game. So I don't know if you've got any of the Saints. Olave, Kamara. I'm sticking clear of them against the Rams. And yeah, it gets pretty thin on the ground pretty quickly, doesn't it? The captains this week, you think about Jamar Chase versus that Chicago secondary, but also Rome Odunze versus that Bengals secondary. Probably land on Chase a little bit more. The Bears have given up 16 passing touchdowns this year and 216 yards a game. Jahmyr Gibbs versus Minnesota is not a bad one early. If you've got Derrick Henry, I'd probably slap the VC on him against Miami on Friday morning. We've also got Puka up against the Saints. They give up 208 yards in the air a game and 14 passing touchdowns. And then you could probably finish off with JSN versus Washington, the 5th worst passing defense in the NFL right now. So a couple of really good captain options. I think I'll probably land throwing the VC on Chase and once more perhaps going to, with the 8:05 start, I believe. Oh no, Indy start at the same time. So it's a bit of I might have to maybe throw the C on Puka later on against the Saints and hope that he goes massive once he's come back from his injury. If not, maybe JSN against Washington. And that's about where I'd sort of land with that. I think JSN versus Washington, Puka. The wide receivers feel like the best ones looking this week because Chase has got a great matchup against Chicago. Robert Dunze's got a great matchup against the Bengals. Detroit's got an awesome matchup against the Vikings. So maybe the VC on Gibbs just to see if you can rip off another 70. Or the VC and you feel good about it against, with Jonathan Taylor against Pittsburgh. The Steelers' run defense has been pretty good. Only 5 touchdowns, I think, on the ground. But we know their passing defense sort of stinks. So maybe it opens up a little bit for them and Jonathan Taylor takes advantage. That's a 5 a.m. start. So I'd probably go maybe, the way I'm looking at probably Jonathan Taylor or Chase VC into, probably for me, Puka versus the Saints at home. We're going to keep an eye on Puka with that injury risk. So maybe JSN against the Washington Commanders. Good times. But there you go. We'll do the team reveal on Thursday night with the actual short video, so keep an eye out for that. But that's it. for the minute. So that's the Week 8 wrap of NFL SuperCoach and the Week 9 preview. Big week ahead. Hopefully you're not too afflicted by the buys this week. I'm feeling pretty good. I've got coverage left, right, and center. So in terms of the trades, I'm probably not going to make any. I'll keep my powder dry this week. We'll let you know in the team reveal. But I'm looking pretty okay across the board. Touch wood. But check us out across all of the socials for Jim Does SuperCoach. Twitter, IG, Facey, TikTok, YouTube. Make sure you're all around NFL Straya and NBA Straya as well. We're covering all NBA SuperCoach on this show too. That's the Monday show as we try to weave that week 1 finish before the week 2 start on Tuesdays. But how good is SuperCoach? Right, I hope you have a great week 9. This has been Jim Does SuperCoach. Happy SuperCoaching.